many business people we dealt with did not know and understand the impact of political decisions on their businesses. And likewise, many of the people that I dealt with in the political world really didn't understand business very well and how business decisions were made. And that hatched this idea that we have worked with the university on about trying to bring in a series of speakers who talked about issues that impacted public policy and impacted business. We are really thrilled to have Preston here today because I think he will add very much to our overall education as business leaders and community leaders.
Preston Keat, as some of you know, has a PhD from UCLA, a master's from London School of Economics, and is the managing director and head of political and country risk at UBS, which, as you may know, is one of the most influential financial services companies and banks in the world.
One of the things that my team does is give lots of inputs into stress testing and stress scenarios. And that's usually sort of a hypothetical exercise. And it's been really notable for the last 8 months to be living through an actual stress scenario and stress test, which has been the COVID pandemic. I think that one of the real challenges here is if you compare what's happening in Europe and the US to places like Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, where they haven't had a second resurgence, there's one big difference in that those countries have massively restricted the flow of people. The other sort of macro challenge of the past decade is this notion of globalization and retreat. If you look at the chart on the left, this looks basically from the time of the financial crisis through about a year or two ago. And what we've seen there is a huge decrease in cross-border bank loans, cross-border capital flows. Other areas like trade and goods, multinational profits, things like this have been sort of neutral. And other things, including international travel and migration, have actually gone up quite a bit. However, on those last several, COVID has completely slammed the brakes on that. So the question is, does that become reversed over the next 18 months? Another thing I would highlight here on the chart on the right is regionalization of trade and supply chains. So basically in the world, you have these three buckets of economic activity. But what we've seen is a real narrowing of that. So the US becoming much more reliant on parts and inputs from North America. So if you look on this chart, basically in every category, the US is receiving less and, let's say, interacting less with China in terms of manufacturing. This regionalization, again, it was occurring already, but I think that COVID just becomes an accelerator of that. Again, in an era which have been characterized by truly global supply chains. Global supply chains aren't going away, but I think just more regionalization and reshoring will just be the norm. Thanks very much, everybody. Cheers.